there is nothing more virtuous than trying to get better at whatever it is you do. When you get better at whatever it is you do, you enhance your ability to contribute, to solve problems, to eliminate barriers. You can be anything you want to be. To the more accurate, you can be a hell of a lot more of who you already are.
I have an unbelievable ability to get people to do things they don't want to do.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course, with insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe De Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and the Hard Way podcast. I've got James King, a buddy of mine. He advises the military, he advises sports teams, he advises families. He turns people that are excellent into extraordinary. Is that a fair description of what you do?
Yeah, I like that, Joe. Thank you very much. I'd say my role is to put individuals and organizations under the conditions that enable them to win their race, give them the opportunity to be absolutely everything they can be.
How did you become an expert in this area? Like what makes you the guy? I've read the book. The book is awesome, but let's let the listeners know like how you became James King. Great name, by the way.
Well, yeah, thanks, Mum and Dad, for that one. Well, look, for as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with human performance. As a kid, I'd be watching World's Strongest Man or reading biographies of sort of special forces superheroes, Branson, entrepreneurs, athletes. It was something that always gripped me. And then I had this incredible opportunity after school to go and study at the University of Edinburgh. To the Americans listening, the University of Edinburgh is pretty much like Hogwarts. I was literally jumping on platform 10, King's Cross, getting up to Edinburgh. J.K. Rowling wrote all the books there. It's this like magical place. Suddenly in this environment where Charles Darwin, Adam Smith, Robert Louis Stevenson and studies, it's the most inspiring place I've been in that respect. And for me, I was studying performance sciences. So it's a broad set of courses: sports science, psychology, neuroscience, biochemistry, anything that can potentially have an impact in terms of excellence, performance gets chucked in and you're looking at it. And what I love about the course the most is it flips this whole traditional model of science on its head. Traditionally, science looks to study the average. The aim is to identify trends. How long does it take the average person to learn to read, write, walk, or talk? Scientists will then aim to find people that perhaps are below average, maybe struggling to read, struggling to write, got low blood pressure, maybe they're overweight. And then they'll design interventions designed to get them back to average. And there's a big problem with that, in that studying the average teaches you nothing about excellence. So the performance sciences just flip that on its head. So instead of studying the average, we study the outliers. The aim is to identify individuals, organizations that have excelled at the upper limits of human potential. And then we want to break down and examine the causal mechanisms that got them there. That's exactly what I did for 5 years at the University of Edinburgh. And for me, that first week was game changing. I was sort of, my jaw hit the floor after the first lecture. I'm looking left and right at people in the room like, why the fuck isn't the Prime Minister here? Why isn't every business owner, parent, military commander in this room, like leveraging the shit out of this science? It was just incredible to me, and it still is. As far as I'm concerned, it should be taught in schools, and we'll make it happen eventually. It's a fight I'm certainly going to pick. But then, so that's where it all started for me in terms of understanding the theory. And then I guess over the last 10 to 15 years, I've had the privilege of putting this science to practice personally and professionally. So, I've been through, as a performer, through, unique, austere and arduous selection processes with the military. I've pivoted into business. I've run and led, founded businesses within trading and investing in some of the most competitive spaces there in the City of London. And of course, you'll know, Joe, what it's like on Wall Street. And then from a professional standpoint, I've had the most incredible opportunities to work with individuals that are operating at the pinnacle in their crafts across sports in North America and the UK. And I've really been able to sort of take all that science to work, find the biggest metaphorical hammer I can and hit it as hard as I I can to see what actually stands up to the rigors of real world live performance. I guess my mission now to an extent is to make that science accessible to everyone out there so that it's not just reserved for sort of the people that have got the big bank account that can pay for it, or sort of top sports teams, top finance executives, and top military units. Because for me, there is nothing more virtuous than trying to get better at whatever it is you do. I fundamentally believe that when anyone endeavors on any sort of improvement process, they literally make the world a better place. And in fact, for me, that is how we go out and fix all the problems that exist in this world. When you get better at whatever it is you do, you enhance your ability to contribute, to solve problems, to eliminate barriers, and expand the way those around you perceive potential. And as far as I'm concerned, we fix the world by optimizing ourselves.
Imagine if the world leaders, to your point, right, when you were in Edinburgh, imagine if the world leaders said, I know there's these other 20 issues we talk about in the news all the time, we fight over, but the real issue is we've got to get everybody healthy. All our constituents have to be healthy, have to be optimized. It would change the whole game. We're going to fight less with each other. We're going to get upset less over stupid things. We're going to use less healthcare. We're going to feel better. We're going to be nicer to be around if we just optimized our lives.
Yeah, bang on, Joe. And this is the classic problem I see. And I think it's a bit of there is so much science knows that business and the people that the science is really there to serve, especially in the UK, like these universities are funded by the taxpayer. It's their job to really they need to get better at communicating this and actually coming up with commercially viable ways for this science to be put to work. Because unless it's put to work, it's a fucking waste of everyone's time. So it's all well and good knowing and as you're talking about there, we know the impacts are astronomical in terms of whether it's kids, doing and we're not talking about running marathons every day. We're talking 30-minute bursts of activity and what that does to their concentration, their attention, their discipline, their self-esteem. There's mountain high science backing this all up. And to be honest, it really pisses me off that we're not a bit better at actually putting it to practice to make things better for people. But there are great signs. There are green shoots. There's people like yourself, Joe, that are going to war with it, and the other guests you've had on this podcast. Yeah, I think we've sort of, I guess we've kind of declared war on that, and we're going to take a bit of a stand in terms of optimizing this area.
Well, you wrote a book on it. What would you say you got from Edinburgh? Like what key things did you learn in that class that we could apply to our lives? So
to be honest, the theory was it was just enough to inspire me. I had to almost deconstruct it and put it together myself. So I'd say the actual learning came through putting it to work. But there's one thing, it's three important areas, but there's one thing that's infinitely more important based on my learning and understanding. And there's one mechanism that everyone that excels aligns with more than anything else. And that's that they perform from their sweet spot. For me, nothing comes before this. If you're a parent, if you're a business leader, if you're an individual who just wants more out of yourself. And it works a little bit like this. Just like a baseball bat has a location at which the ball's going to rebound away from the bat at a greater velocity than if struck at any other point, so do you. Just like that baseball has a sweet spot, you have a sweet spot. And to excel, you need to pursue goals that align with the qualities that make you unique. And there's three. So your strengths, these are the things that come naturally to you. Your interests, these are the things you're instinctually drawn to. And your values, the things that are most important to you. And the secret behind pursuing concordant goals is that they tie in what we call your dopaminergic incentive reward system. And this is the evolutionary mechanism that compels you to move forward confidently and assertively in the face of adversity. There aren't people that are born without resilience, confidence, motivation. There are people pursuing goals or in environments that fail to ignite those traits that exist within them. And when you start to perform goals that align with these conditions, you gain access to this psychological firepower, and it builds and it grows, and there's no limit to what can be achieved when you come into alignment with that. The reason each area, I'll go through them really quick, Joe, because I think it's really important. In terms of strengths, strengths are the things basically that we have a high baseline ability for or a high responsiveness to training. if, for instance, you and I are training and you experience 2 breakthrough units a day and I experience 1 year from now, you're going to be so far ahead of me. I ain't catching you up, no matter how ambitious I am or how hard I try. Yes, anyone can get a lot better at anything, but to excel, you do need to identify some of these strengths that come naturally to you. And that could be a gift with words, numbers, physical ability, people. There's an infinite range of strengths we all have. And mostly when we're looking at this, we're looking at a combination of strengths.
So lean into your strengths. Figure out your strengths and lean into them.
100%. And then the next thing is, because the strengths will dictate the role you play.
But a lot of us are told to fix our weaknesses.
Yeah.
But you're suggesting, maybe we still want to fix our weaknesses, but let's lean into our strengths.
Yeah. When you're playing in the NBA, then you can worry about fixing your weaknesses. But until then, you need to focus and lean into the areas that you have asymmetric
advantage
ability to profit from training. Okay, because that's a key way I'm looking at things, right? My role is to maximize the development trajectory of the individual and the organization. I want that development curve, a line as steep as possible. That to me is my currency in which I trade and measure profit. So I want that responsiveness nice and steep. And the way you maximize that is by investing time and effort in the things that yield you the biggest return. And the key is to pursue goals where your strengths are an advantage and your weaknesses just don't matter in an ideal world. Strengths will dictate the role you play, but then we have interests. So interests are the things you're instinctually drawn to. So some people are just like motorbikes and they can't explain it. And that's the thing that's crazy about this. It's like our interests are an ancient part of us. They're located way down at the brain, the top of our brainstem. They're like as old as trees from an evolutionary perspective. Like a feeling of thirst or hunger. It's the same similar area of the brain. Like you have a thirst for water or you feel hungry for food. It's the same with an interest. It's like, I want motorbikes, and it just grip you. And it could be, not that I'm into motorbikes, by the way, I was just chatting to someone literally yesterday all about this, but they just grip you from somewhere. Like, for instance, the way that, endurance events did you. There's plenty of other things in your environment, but there was something about that snagged your attention and you went after it. And the reason pursuing or leveraging your strengths in an area you're sincerely interested in is so important is because interests dictate the amount of time you can spend in that area. And they act like an analgesic to the unrelenting pain and immersion of pursuing a single specific domain. And you'll know that more than anyone with some of the crazy shit you've done and your interests. You can effectively outstruggle the rest.
Lean into your strengths, lean into your strengths, figure out your interests. How hard is it to figure out? I mean, you instinctually know, like you said, right? It's like, I love whatever that thing is. You should be able to bubble that up on a piece of paper.
Oh, mate, 100%. You just need to look around your, if I took a forensic examination of your phone, where do you spend time? What do you spend money on? What's the shit you talk about that you actually do? If I looked at the bookshelf, okay, what books have we got up there? How many have you actually read? Okay, what chapters did you actually read? What ones have you read again? I can look in your environment and you'll see there's clear patterns in your life in terms of the things. You can just simply reflect. And that's a big thing people struggle with, taking the time to actually step back and reflect. Even with strengths, where have I been, versus the rest, top quartile, from the off, high baseline. Where have I been really responsive to training? I've gone 1 week and then the next week and I'm getting better and the next week again. And then same with interest. What things I'm most excited for? When I look back and I think about pure enjoyment as emotion, what things were I doing? Was I fishing? Was I reading these sorts of books? Was I making investments? Was I, spending time in the gym training? Well, what training? With who? And they're all sort of clues. It just requires a bit of time to reflect. The third component, right, is what we call values. So values, we're talking about the things that are most important to you. So for some people, that's going to be king and country. It might be the environment. It might be your children. It might be the future generation. Kids, that's clearly something that's sincerely important to you. And the reason your values are so important is that they dictate the intensity you bring and the odds you're prepared to face. So when you pursue goals that leverage your strengths in an area you're sincerely interested in, and for an organization or with people or cause that you perceive to be sincerely important, that's when you become like unstoppable. That's when your brain gives you access to all the good chemicals and all that psychological firepower we talk about, positive emotion, confidence, motivation, resilience, creativity. You know, that's in all of us now. There's no one born with a human brain that doesn't possess that ability. But that's when we take the lid comes off and it just flows out of you. And you maximize your probability of being everything you can be.
But I do want to say and push back on me here. I've been roping people into work or doing things since I'm, preteens. And what I would hear so often is, well, I'm just trying to find that thing. I'm just trying to find the thing I'm passionate about. And what I always said was just start doing something. Just start doing. Because if you're doing, you're going to stumble upon that thing that is your thing. But if you're not doing, if you're sitting around, if you're not being productive, if you're not getting after it, it's not gonna fall out of the sky and land in your lap. You got to just be doing.
Joe. Yeah, you want it to be 5% thinking, 95% action. So literally, if what we've been talking about here is resonating with people that are listening, it's like, right, literally ask yourself those questions, and you can spend an afternoon and evening, but then act on it. Because you're not going to find the perfect sweet spot and this is it and God designed me to do this and it's just going to fall on your lap. It's a process of zeroing in on it, and you sort of zigzag there, and the zigs and zags are quite wide to begin with. But the more stuff you try, the more it's all data, right? That's what that emotions are. Our emotions are data to inform this. And you try something out, you think, oh, Jesus, I didn't enjoy that. Then chin it off, and you've eliminated something, and you zero in. Oh, but I did like this aspect, or I did like that person, or, I did like this about that company. I couldn't work there in the long run because of this, but they did this really well. And you've identified a value that's important to you. And it's a process of taking action, gaining the feedback. And as you zig and zag, they will get smaller and smaller, and you narrow in until you really are smack bang in your sweet spot. And the thing here as a whole is this shift I think we need in society from, I think people are being torn apart with some shit advice in lots of areas online. People giving advice maybe they're not qualified to give, or they're doing it to sell a product or something or other. The reality is we need to shift this, you can be anything you want to be, to the more accurate, you can be a hell of a lot more of who you already are. And this whole point in terms of performing from your sweet spot is that the greatest poker players they're not the ones that have dealt the best hands. They're the ones that play the hands that have been dealt best. And that's the way we need to approach this pursuit of meaningful goals and performing from our sweet spot. So that's the first thing I think is super important. But you bang on, you make that key point there. You got to have a quick think, but then act.
And let's just test it right now. So strengths, if you forced me to look in the mirror and say, Joe, what are your strengths? I'd say, I have an unbelievable ability to get people to do things they don't want to do. I have no idea why. My dad had that same ability. My mother had it too. So that's a strength. Another strength is I have relentless energy. Always since I'm a little kid, just wake up like a robot and just start moving until I collapse at night. What do I think I love? What's my passion? I just love being outside. Like you said, I love being in mountains. I love being around nature. I just love it. I'm stuck, unfortunately, in an office in front of a computer. But if you said to me, what do you absolutely love? You're right. It's just being out on trails and dirty and muddy. And I'm not saying that because, we own this bit. That's what I love.
That's why this business has been born, right? It's the product of you performing from your sweet spot. That's what happens when people get in their sweet spot. They create incredible things like you have with Spartan that's changed people's lives. That's exactly what happens when you perform from the sweet spot.
But I didn't start there. I was, cleaning swimming pools, building, backyards, but I was outside and I was getting a little taste for it. Then I was on Wall Street. I was sitting in front of a screen, but I was doing and I was acting and I was meeting people and I was developing. But I guess somewhere deep down inside, like you said, in my brain, I just loved being outside. And then as far as values go, I just love changing people. I love receiving an email that says, you got me to do this, or you changed I value that more than anything, more than dollars.
Yeah.
That's currency to me. So when you lay that out, like you just did, and then I check myself, it really, I got to pinch myself and like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and Joe, pursuing concordant goals isn't a luxury. It's what we are all genetically hardwired to do, you know?
Right.
And as you said, if it's a game of better, not a game of perfect. As soon as you have an idea of what it might look like, or think of it as a continuum, highly concordant, not concordant at all, your aim is to just move right. You just want to become more concordant. And the further right you go, the easier it gets, and you sort of enter this slipstream, and it will suck you up.
I want to get you down here. We're gonna get you down. You gave me an idea. I know you and I are playing around with some big ideas. Let's set up an annual. You know, a lot of people are putting on these conferences, and folks pay a lot of money and they go to these conferences. We should do the Edinburgh statement. Got me thinking. We should do a course down here where we invite everybody down, and they learn from you. They learn from other people you and I know. And they got to take a test, and they become certified. And let's call it, they become certified in better.
Yeah, I love that.
Who wouldn't want to hire somebody that got certified in better, right? They were willing to do the work. They didn't just go, and they weren't just passively listening to a conference and really just like, let's do that. And by the way, maybe we charge like $1.
Yeah, I'd rather someone until I write a letter, a one-pager as to why they should have the opportunity to do it.
I like that.
That would be awesome. I'd love to do something like that. I think it's so important when there are more people that understand this and go, because this is the whole point, right? This is why I want to talk about this stuff, because for me, this should be taught at school. You should leave school and you should leave university or any education process you're in. They should be teaching you about this concept of concordance, and you should leave with a very good idea. And it would just help accelerate the process. The more concordant people we got on this planet solving problems, the better for us all.
I love it. Look, how do people find you?
On Instagram, James A. King, _JamesAKing.com.
All right. Check them out and get the book. And you're going to come to our University of Better down in maybe in Florida. Maybe we could do it at Edinburgh. Who knows? Maybe we'll do it in the UK.
Yeah, maybe that'd be fun. Nice, wet, windy, miserable city. You'll love it, Joe.
We'll do it Brecon Beacons. That's one of my favorite places.
It's some significant emotional events there. Yeah.
Yeah.